Dive In.
Bienvenidos a Diving.
Witajcie na festiwalu Dive In.
Welcome to the Dive In Festival.
Willkommen zu Dive In.
Bienvenidos a Diving.
Welcome to Dive In.
Mabuhay sa diving kapistahan.
Üdvözlünk a Diving Fesztiválon!
Добро пожаловать на фестиваль Dive In.
ברוכים הבאים. בואו לצלול איתנו.
ডাইভ ইন উৎসবে আপনাদের সকলকে জানাই সাদর আমন্ত্রণ।
Diving'e yokoso.
Benvenuti al Diving Festival.
Diving Festivali'ne hoş geldiniz.
Thank you, Andrew. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to all participants and presenters to Dive In Festival 2020, especially our session today, where we will talk about optimizing opportunity to stay resilient. The Dive In Festival aims to bring together local voices across the globe to create a global impact on inclusion. Now, in its 6th year, Dive In Festival has over 100 events due to be hosted virtually in a record number of 35 countries, making Dive In 2020 one of our largest festivals globally. This year, we are delighted to bring 2-day sessions of Dive In Festival in Jakarta. The first one is the one that we have right now, and the other one will be held tomorrow. Before we kick off this event, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Aris Keristi. I am the Country Compliance and Risk Management of AIG Indonesia. I'll be your moderator for today's session. Before we start, I would like to inform the rules of today's event. First of all, as mentioned by Andrew, please put yourself on mute and camera off all time. And any questions, you can raise your question by using the Q&A chat box. And you can type your question at any time during the presentation, but the presenter will respond and answer to your questions during the Q&A sessions. It will be preferred if you can submit your question in English, but if you prefer to use Bahasa Indonesia, that will be fine too. When you type your questions, please select the panelist as the recipient of your questions, so all the panelists can receive and read your questions. And at the end of this event, there will be a short polling and survey. We expect that everyone can take time to complete this questionnaire. If you need e-certificate to be sent to your email, you may also provide your further details. All right, our agenda for today. We are going to have 2 presentations from 2 distinguished presenters, Mr. Douglas Yura, President Director and CEO Marsh Indonesia, and Mrs. Vira Widyasari, Vice President of Fintech and Payment Tokopedia, who are so kindly making time to be here with us, and it's a really great honor for us to have them here. After their presentation, we will have the Q&A. Okay, to kick off this today's session, I would like to ask Mr. Rob Logi, President Director and CEO of AIG Indonesia, to open today's session. Rob joined AIG in 2017 as President Director and CEO of AIG Indonesia. Prior to this, Rob worked in various senior roles for Insurance Australia Group AIG for 18 years in Australia, India, and Indonesia as part of the Asian Executive Management Team. Rob is leading AIG Indonesia as the only commercial insurance-focused company in Indonesia and one of general insurance leader in Indonesian commercial insurance industry. Without further ado, Rob, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So good morning to all our virtual participants for today's dive-in session. I'm Rob Logie. I'm the President Director and CEO of AIG Indonesia, and I'm very pleased to be part of the program today, sharing some opening thoughts. We're delighted that you all joined us today. This year marks our 2nd year in supporting this event after the inaugural Indonesian Dive In Festival hosted by AIG last year. I'm pleased that the 2020 Dive-In Festival in Indonesia is supported by our tremendous partners, Marsh Indonesia and Telstra. The theme of this year's festival is resilience and inclusivity. As we enter a decade of exponential change, demanding more global innovation and collaboration than human beings have ever previously experienced, we will reflect on the aspects of diversity and inclusion that enable us to bring our whole selves and our unique experiences to bear on our shared challenges. Despite the challenging year, we're delighted that the Dive-In Festival is here for 2020, stronger than ever and in a virtual format. Its virtual format means that for the first time, attendees can participate in events across the world, regardless of geography. And I'd like to welcome all participants. Thank you for joining in this session today. AIG has been in Indonesia since 1970, and this year marks our 50-year anniversary. Throughout our history, AIG has continually adapted and developed its business to meet its partners' and clients' needs. And 2020 is no different, as we grapple with the changes that are taking place in Indonesia and across the world. Today's topic for optimising the opportunity for resilience is a very relevant topic for the Dive-In Festival. Globally, regionally, at a country level, company level, and each of us as individuals will be required to strengthen our resilience in response to the world changed by COVID-19. I searched for a suitable definition for resilience, and I've only found one that I liked from Cambridge Online, and it goes something like this. It's the ability to be happy, successful, etc. again after something difficult or bad has happened. I also found this, which framed the concept of resilience very well. Dr. Karen Rivich, PhD, Director of Training at the University of Pennsylvania's Positive Psychology Center and author of The Resilience Factor, defines resilience as the ability to navigate adversity and grow through challenges. She said, "I like the word navigate because when you navigate a car, you tap resources like a GPS for directions. Resilience is the same. When we have resilience, we're tapping into our internal resources to overcome adversity." What she was referring to was that we have tools that we use to adapt and persevere when times are tough. Some examples include your friends and family, but we also have internal tools like using your mind to change the way you think about things. Rather than a problem, you see it as a challenge to make you stronger or an opportunity to do something different. Something you might enjoy, like exercise or reading books or learning something new. Resilience is not an either-or trait. It's not like you either have resilience or you don't. Everyone has resilience, but we don't all get to use it often. Today, however, resilience is taking on a whole new dimension as the world changes rapidly and dramatically due to the COVID-19 crisis. Things we took for granted, like being free to travel, working from an office, gathering for birthday parties, have been snatched away from us. Things perhaps we didn't realise were important but are. And not having it is having an impact on our well-being and happiness. So what do we do as leaders and individuals to develop our resilience? How do we take this negative impact on our lives and turn it into an opportunity? That is what we're planning to explore in today's Dive-In session. Everyone is talking about it, so it makes sense that we make sense of it for our audience today. This is where we move from the theory to the practical. To do that, we have distinguished speakers from two great companies, Douglas Ure from Marsh Indonesia and Vera Widyasari from Tokopedia. Marsh is one of the leading insurance brokers globally, regionally and in Indonesia, and Tokopedia is one of Indonesia's leading unicorns and leader in the fast-growing digital world of commerce. I look forward to hearing how they think about resilience and how they build resilience for the country, their customers, and of course, their colleagues. I hope you enjoy the session today and take something useful and practical away from the discussion. I'll now hand you back to our moderator to introduce our first speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Rob, for your opening remarks. Yeah, we really hope that everyone, the participant, can learn something from our two distinguished presenters today. All right, now let's go to our first presentation. For the next 20 minutes, Mr. Douglas Ure will share his view about our today's topic. Mr. Douglas Ure is the President Director and Chief Executive Officer of Marsh Indonesia, with over 20 years of experience working in insurance and risk management. He began his career in the manufacturing sector, where he was responsible for corporate risk management and insurance before moving into the consulting industry. He joined Marsh in 2007 and has been involved in various roles covering consulting, analytics, and claim across UK, Europe, and Asia. He moved to Asia in 2014 to be based in Singapore before moving to Jakarta, Indonesia in April 2019. Without further ado, Mr. Douglas, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. Selamat pagi semua. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for that introduction, and delighted to be speaking at actually my first Dive In festival. It's an honour actually to speak. Marsh has been supporting Dive In really since its inception a number of years ago, and delighted to be asked to speak at this event in Indonesia, really supporting the development of inclusive workplace cultures. So today, as you heard from Rob, we're talking about the subject of resilience, and actually it's an area that's quite close to my heart. In fact, before moving to the Asia region 6 years ago, I used to advise companies around their business continuity and plans for resilience. And I often would sit down with my clients and talk to them about, what would happen in a crisis situation? How would you respond to a major business interruption? Or how would you respond to something that happens that's really uncertain? And I think really today, when you think about the pandemic that we are in and the uncertainty that we face and how long this uncertainty is going to last for, I think, now is the time really where we challenge ourselves, our colleagues, our communities, our clients and the companies that we work for on being resilient and sort of recovering from what could be defined as a potentially crisis situation. And what do I mean when I talk about a crisis? Well, here's a definition that I've used before, but an inherently abnormal, unstable, and complex situation that represents a threat to the strategic objective, reputation, or existence of an organisation. Now, that definition is obviously very much talking about corporate resilience and how a company would respond to a crisis. But I think when you look at the pandemic situation we face today, I guess we could describe it as abnormal. We have had pandemics before, but it doesn't happen very often. It's certainly unstable in the sense that we don't really know how this event is going to play out. We don't really know how it might impact societies and business and people. So it's very complex, unstable and abnormal, and it's a situation that really, for the first time, many of us have had to deal with quite a dramatic change to how we work and how we live. So when you think about how we respond and how we sort of maintain our resilience, you heard from Rob some definitions of resilience, and perhaps I can also share with you a few more of those definitions on the next slide. Again, following the same theme from Rob, the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. Now that's obviously referring more to perhaps animal or plant life, but something that really weathers a storm, something that can bounce back and get back into shape following a really adverse event, or the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties and toughness, an ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change, and your ability to withstand adversity and bounce back and grow despite life's downturns. And you know what? I think all of us probably have experienced misfortune. All of us have experienced difficulties. All of us have experienced downturns in one form or another. Some of us take longer to bounce back. Some of us are better at bouncing back. Some of us perhaps really struggle to bounce back depending on the type of event that we've experienced. But this is what we really mean when we talk about resilience. You know, how do you bounce back and be as strong as you can be to recover from a crisis or recover from some form of misfortune or some form of unexpected situation that has perhaps knocked you back a little bit? So let's look at the next slide and talk a little bit about, you know, the pandemic and why I think that, you know, we're in for probably quite a long phase of what we might term recovery or remaining resilient during a long period of uncertainty. And when you look at the pandemic that really, you know, first appeared in China at the end of last year and gradually and quite quickly spread across all parts of the world. And that initial outbreak, that first 2 months, really first 2 months of the year, really hit us for six. You know, how do we respond? How do we address the implications of the virus, and how does it affect our personal lives, our family, the companies that we work for? And that first phase, that first 2 months was really uncertain across the world. You saw different governments take different courses of action. You saw some governments delay lockdowns. You saw some governments come straight into lockdown. You saw travel bans being put in place, creating a huge economic uncertainty and a huge personal uncertainty that all of us probably have been facing over recent months. And then we talk about phase two, which we've defined here as the long haul of suppression, which, you know, could be 12 months or maybe even longer. And I suspect, you know, this is where we really are right now and today. We're in a phase where we're experiencing volatility. We're experiencing second waves of infection. We're experiencing some countries and companies changing their policies and protocols with regards to social distancing, with regards to how they operate, with regards to you know, how they interact with their customers. And you know, during this phase, we're going to see quite a lot of volatility. We're going to see cases going up and down. We're going to see business perform differently, and even our own behaviours are going to be going up and down as we, you know, as individuals respond to this difficult situation that we face ourselves in. And then as we come into phase three, which, you know, hopefully we come into sooner rather than later, but this is where we begin to try and get back into a normal operation and begin to start to, as we defined resilience, bounce back from that period of difficulty that we were facing, and hopefully bounce back stronger than we did even before this pandemic happened at the beginning of the year. And on to the next slide, you know, this talks a little bit about how we can think about organizations responding to a crisis, responding to a situation, beginning to try and restart and build up the business and build up the organization, and then get into that recovery phase. Now, obviously, any organization and any individual wants to move into the recovery phase as quickly as possible. You know, if you get unwell, you want to get recovered. If the business suffers difficulties or uncertain, you want to get back into recovery. But I think we're still some way away from moving into that recovery phase. We're very much looking at how we're responding to the crisis, how we're responding to the pandemic, and how we can think about restarting our lives, restarting our companies, restarting and working in what would be classed as a new normal. And only really then can we then think about how we start recovering our business, recovering our lives, and doing the things that we used to do before the pandemic started. So organisational resilience, looking at how the company that you work for and the company that we work for at Marsh, for example, has been trying to serve our colleagues and serve our clients as best as we can during what is a very difficult situation. And let me talk a little bit about, probably the most important aspect of how Marsh, for example, has looked at running our business and managing the uncertainty and the resilience that we as an organisation have faced. And the focus for us really initially has been really on our colleagues. So when you look at the next slide, if you can go to the next slide, this was actually a slide that we've presented to a number of clients, and it's our employee benefits team at Marsh that was how to take care of your colleagues during a new normal. So not just about their health and their well-being, but also their mental state as well. So when we think about the sort of four parts of a colleague wellness program, we're looking at monitoring their health, monitoring and taking care of their physical well-being, taking care and assessing their emotional well-being, and looking at what insurance protections we've got in place for our individuals. And that could be making sure adequate health insurance, or just simply making sure that they're adequately looked after if they do suffer as a result of this difficult situation. And for Marsh as an organisation, we're very much a people business. We're a people business that provides advice to our customers and to our clients. So if we as an employee, as our colleagues are in good shape and we're operating well and we're looking after them, then we're going to be able to provide a good service and a good support to our clients. So our first priority was very much making sure that our colleagues were in good shape, making sure that our colleagues were connected to their teams, and making sure that we were helping any colleagues that were experiencing any form of difficulty. And one way that we did this, we did a sort of regular check-in, just a very, very simple check-in. It was an anonymous check-in. So the next slide will show some of the results that we looked at. But every month, we wanted to check in with our colleagues across Marsh in Indonesia and across the Asia region on whether they were feeling well, whether they were feeling connected, whether they had the right IT support, and actually whether they enjoyed and liked working from home. So we looked at those four areas on a regular basis to see if there was any change in people and how they were responding to these four questions. The other thing that we did was we asked our HR teams to sort of reach out to colleagues on a case-by-case basis, just checking in on a one-to-one basis to see how people were doing, whether they feel connected, and whether they needed somebody to talk to, and whether they needed any support. And I'm glad to say that over the course of the last 6 months, we very quickly adopted a working from home strategy. Like many organisations did, we wanted to make sure colleagues were working from home, they were connected, and they were working effectively. We also had a core group of colleagues that did work from the office. And again, we wanted to make sure that our office was set up in a safe environment, allowing people to socially distance and allowing people to work effectively without having any concerns around their own health or around their own well-being. The next slide that touches a few of some of the other areas that cover the themes that we wanted to address with our colleagues. So one, staying connected. So every team leader checking in with their team, having regular video calls with the team. In some cases, this could be a daily call. In some cases, it was done by some teams every week. Myself as a CEO looked to dial in and connect to those team calls, and they weren't very, in many cases, they weren't even that business orientated. Actually, they were much more around how the team was doing, how the team was feeling, and connected, and whether they were resilient, and whether they felt they were getting the support and they were being able to work effectively remotely. The other thing that we were encouraging our team leaders specifically to look at was sort of recognising any changes in behaviours. So, it's quite easy when you see people in person to, assess and judge through body language and through their personality whether they are feeling up, feeling down, or they've got something going on that might need support. It's easier to hide those behaviours when you're working remotely, or whether even if you're just dialing in through Zoom. So we're looking at some of the telltale signs and changing behaviours, and that could be simply being quite quiet on a team call, or being late in responding to emails, or just simply being a bit out of character. So how did you recognise those signals and signs when colleagues were actually working remotely and outside of the usual office environment? The other thing that we were encouraging colleagues to do was actually take holidays. Now, some colleagues obviously resisted that, because the challenge coming back to me as the CEO was, well, where are we going to go? What do we want to do? There's nowhere to go. And I think we sort of accepted that in the early days, and we encouraged colleagues, if they needed to sort of bank holidays and, maybe take them later in the year or into next year. But as we realised that this pandemic and this crisis was going to go on for much, much longer than perhaps that we anticipated, we really felt it was important for colleagues to just check out of work and take some time out. So we really, not enforcing, but gently encouraging colleagues to take some time out of the office, take some time out from work. We called these sort of Netflix days in some cases, where colleagues would just put the laptop off and spend time with family, or spend time watching movies. It might seem not the best way to spend your holidays, but we felt it was important for our colleagues just to be able to check out from work. And, in the early days of the pandemic, a number of colleagues would say that every day, including Saturdays and Sundays, just felt like an ordinary working day. So we wanted to make sure that colleagues were checking out of the business as well. The other thing was looking at what colleagues can come into the office. So, we obviously were governed by regulatory restrictions in terms of colleagues that were allowed to come to the office. We had to minimise the capacity of the office, and we had to put in certain health protocols. So that was an important fact, where there was a business need potentially to have colleagues in the office, but also colleagues that might have a personal need, colleagues that might be living at home, or not living with family, or living alone. Was there an opportunity for them to come into the office and connect with colleagues? The other thing that we wanted to make sure right from the offset was job security. So, one thing that our global CEO said to all colleagues: if you're fine, we will be fine. So, in the theme of looking after our colleagues and our employees, we wanted to make sure everyone had the confidence that their job was secure during the midst of this pandemic. And that was really, really important across the 75,000 colleagues that work across the Marsh and McLennan business. The last 2 points were simply about having fun. So we wanted to try and, again, maintain our community. We as a company do quite a lot of community events. We socialise as a group. Much more difficult to do during the pandemic. So online yoga, cooking, Zumba, stress busters and stress management workshops were important factors for us to support our colleagues. Just to wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about supporting our clients. So in the next slide, I'll talk about our support that we did for clients, and this goes back to how we not just look after our colleagues, but how we look after our own business, actually, and how we look after our clients. Many of our clients were facing difficulties and financial uncertainties. Many of our clients were looking at trying to cut their costs or manage their expenses. And we felt it was really, really important to be able to check in with our clients, just like we were checking in with our colleagues, and be, a partner for them when they needed us most. So in some cases, that resulted in us even winning new business and growing our own business during this pandemic. In other cases, it was about how we could support existing clients in managing their costs and in managing their risk and insurance program. But if we didn't have our colleagues in the right space, and we didn't have the right programs in place for our colleagues, then it would be much, much more difficult to be a strong partner for our clients and be there and resilient, not just for ourselves and not just for our own business, but also for our clients. So I think that just about comes to the end. Apologies for running a little bit over time. I tried to cover quite a lot of topics and sort of give a bit of insight in how the Marsh business in Indonesia managed through the pandemic. So thank you very much, and I'll hand back to our moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas, for your insightful presentation. But I agree with you. It is true that to stay resilient, organization will have to be agile in their response while positioning to evolving economy. So I noted from your presentation that in responding to this uncertainty, you are focusing your operations to the customer needs, servicing existing clients, and most importantly, protecting the colleagues. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing with us. For everyone, just a reminder, you may raise questions by using the Q&A chat box. You can type your questions at any time in the Q&A chat box. The presenter will respond and answer to your questions during the Q&A sessions. Don't forget to select the panelist as the recipient from the drop-down list, so your question will be addressed directly to the presenters. Thank you. Next, we will have Mrs. Vira Widyasari for the second presentation. Mrs. Vira has 20 years of experience in financial services, both in Indonesia and Hong Kong, like Bank Mandiri Group, HSBC, and Citibank. Prior to Tokopedia, she was the card business head of Bank Mandiri, managing 14 trillion rupiah of assets from 2 million customers, and she is also the President Commissioners of PT Mitra Transaksi Indonesia, a subsidiary of Bank Mandiri Group that provide payment infrastructure as a service to banks and non-banks clients. Without further ado, Mrs. Vira, I hand over the floor to you.
Thank you, Bu Ois. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm very delightful to be part of the Dive In 2020. This is my first time Dive In, but really pleased to be joining the Dive In today. So what I would like to share today is probably a bit of overview how we in Tokopedia implementing or build a resilience for our organization, for our people, and how would that actually impact our business, as well as creating the halo effect or creating the cascading effect to build the resiliency to our customers, which is our buyers as well as our sellers in Tokopedia. So let me go through first with a bit of sharing about Tokopedia. As a technology company, we have the mission to democratize commerce through technology. Therefore, we continuously innovate and provide the best experience to all of our users. And our vision is actually to build the super ecosystem where everyone in Indonesia can start and discover anything. On the 17th of August this year, we actually celebrated our 11 years of anniversary. Tokopedia was founded back in 2009 by two Indonesian. It was William and Leon. They both are actually still become our founder and CEO in Tokopedia. And throughout our 11 years of journey, we have gone through a lot, basically. We have to experimenting a lot because back then, marketplace was totally new for Indonesia. And some of the problem involve also a chicken and egg phenomenon, like which one that we should do first. Should we acquire the buyer first or should we get the sellers? And then once they are onboarded, how they are going to make the payment? Because 11 years ago, the sophistication of cashless payment is not as good as what we enjoy today. And another thing that we also got, a lot of people actually do not understand what is actually marketplace. But with resiliency and also perseverance, our nakama, this is what we call all of the Tokopedia staff. We call each other as nakama. We just continue to focus on solving the pain points of our customers, of our merchant, as well as of our partners. And we just continue to make things happen and then continuously improve, make things better. And as the result, we are now the first technology company in Indonesia that pioneer a lot of things. We are the first that implemented the escrow account in the marketplace platform. Trust is important. So having the escrow system is actually solve the trust issue between the buyers as well as the sellers. And we also introduced instant delivery because in the context of the online purchase, people actually wanted to get the goods immediately. So we work with a number of, retailing company to actually provide instant delivery so that the user can actually get what they want immediately. We also expand our business into digital goods. So now that you can buy pulsa, you can buy tickets, you can buy the bills, including even tax in Tokopedia platform. We also expand our payment points beyond this just credit card or bank transfer VA into the using mini market as the offline payment points, because in Indonesia this is still important given the low card and debit penetration. And recently we also opened AI development center in order to actually cascade down the education of using AI in Indonesia. And now during our 11 years, as you can see in the slide, we now have about 90 million active users, more than 9 million merchants with more than 350 million listed products and about 42 digital products. We also work with around 500,000 payment points, and now we have already reached about 98% of the district or kecamatan in Indonesia. That actually shows that we just, how we deliver this just by continuously improve ourselves and becoming more resilient as a company. And our business now comprises of 4 big pillars. The first one is the marketplace and digital goods. This is where you can buy anything, from even now from the F&B, groceries items, electronics, and digital goods are those like pulsa, paying bills and everything. We also have logistic and fulfillment. This is what we created to make the shipping becoming easy for our customers so that the buyers can actually get the goods with whatever shipping option available for them. We also expanded into fintech and payment, working in collaboration with a number of financial institutions, be it from digital wallet, creating an investment product that is affordable, lending for the merchants as well as for the buyers, as well as a number of insurance protection products for our users. And we also expanded into Mitra Tokopedia. This is actually enabling our traditional retailers or warung, we call it in Indonesia, to leverage our technology to sell digital goods as well as getting the inventory of the FMCG products. Yeah. If we go to the next slide. The guiding principle that actually help us to continuously improve and build our resiliency is the 3 Tokopedia DNA. The first one is focus on customers. Second is a growth mindset. And the third one is make it happen. Focus on customers is we just continuously to listen actively. We have our NPS actually tracked every month for all the product that we have in Tokopedia. So we actively listen to our users, trying to understand what are their pain points, be it from the buyer's perspective, from the seller perspective, as well as from the partner's perspective. And then we just continuously actually try to improve. For example, the reason why we built the instant and same day delivery is basically so that the customers can get the goods on the same day. And the reason we are expanding into also working with the financial institution to provide merchant lending is so that our seller will be able to actually expand their business. The second one is growth mindset. In Tokopedia, we have something that we call every student and everybody teachers. So irrespective of your level, your function, we can learn from each other and we can also share to each other. So semua murid, semua guru, that's what we call it. And make it happen, make it better is basically we just need to continuously improve. Because things works today or the things that the customer wants today can be different tomorrow. And especially this COVID has changed a lot. Later on, I will share with you how we actually try to address the opportunity that also arises during the COVID-19 into our Tokopedia, be it in the internal perspective as well as to our customers. So I will share also a bit about our fintech and payment business, as I think this is probably relevant to the audience today. Our digital payments actually provide a number of payment options for our buyers, given the penetration of credit and debit in Indonesia is still very low. So that's why we work with various payment provider, be it wallet and all banks, and as well as also with a number of convenience store, including even Indonesia Post Office, become the payment points for Tokopedia users. So they can just simply go there to make the payment of the purchase that they make in the Tokopedia apps. Yeah. And we also expanded into digital financial technology services. If you go to the next slide, basically, we believe that as part of our mission to democratize commerce through technology, we see that building the financial inclusion through technology is also important because relatively low penetration of financial services product in Indonesia. So we work with many financial institutions such as bank, multi-finance, P2P, fintech, insurance, investment companies, using technology to provide a number of solutions for our users, be it the personal lending. So when the buyer actually would like to buy certain things, which is a high ticket item, they can actually buy now but pay later, or they can pay through the installment. On the merchant lending is actually to help our sellers to be able to expand their business, because more than 85% of the sellers in Tokopedia, they are actually the first time sellers. So they actually, the first time for them to experience doing selling activity is actually in our platform. Investment, because of the low penetration of investment in Indonesia, and typically it is being seen as something that you need to have a lot of money to start with. So we try to use technology to also democratize investment. Our e-gold as well as our mutual fund can be purchased as low as from 5,000, 5,000 ya, or 10,000 rupiah. And insurance, we work with various insurance company as well as InsurTech to also provide value added to our buyers so that they can buy a number of protection that is actually relevant to their purchase in Tokopedia. And all of these are actually supported by a number of intelligent insight as well as a dynamic risk management system. Because of the various businesses that we have in Tokopedia, our marketplace, our digital goods, as well as our logistic, we have a number of data points that we actually analyze and we convert them to become a Toko score. This is the first credit score which is based on the e-commerce behavior in Indonesia, which is now has been used by a number of financial institutions. So this is actually for us to help extending lending to the customers in Indonesia, which is a lot of them are actually probably do not have any history in credit bureau. Yeah. So next. Yeah, this is the example of one of our DNA, which is focus on customers. The first time we did the gadget protection insurance was back in 2018. And then back then what we did is just we tried to actually provide this to as part of the additional feature to our customers who buy gadget in Tokopedia. But we actually wrap it in the average premium, which is quite expensive back then. It's about $20 US. So we failed basically. So it didn't work, you know. We don't get much traction. And then we just immediately try to find, you know, a way to improve it and listen again to the customer's pain point. And then we refine it with only a bite-sized coverage. So it doesn't really have to be super sophisticated. It's just actually sufficient to cater the needs of the user when they buy gadget in Tokopedia. And then we also complement that by building the claim platform. So it's going to be easier for them to actually claim. They can just go to Tokopedia apps to actually claim the insurance that they purchase. And the result is actually good. Our volume increased by 70 times. And then now with the COVID, of course, you know, if they have to claim and they have to go somewhere to actually return back the gadget is so difficult. And now we are also piloting to actually have the pickup as well as the delivery service so that it's becoming easier for our user to actually do the claim. So next slide. Yeah. So we observed that our consumer behavior as the COVID-19 outbreak evolves is actually changed a lot. Yeah. So since the pandemic actually started in Indonesia, I think it started in March. Yeah. If you go to the next slide, we actually experienced a lot of changes, not only in us internally, but also in terms of the customer behavior. Back then in March and April, we see a lot of panic buying, people actually trying to stock up a number of things, masks, hand sanitizers and everything. And then, yes, we did experience actually the significant increase in our business, especially on the healthcare product. It increased by 3 times. But at the same time, we also started to see a number of irresponsible sellers. They are stockpiling the products and they sell them at a very highly inflated price. So what we did, we actually shut them down. So we actually closed thousands of stores who are irresponsible, because this is not something that we tolerate in our platform. And we also even encourage our buyers to report such activities. So if they see a certain product actually being priced very high, they can just simply report it. So we built the feature in our application. And starting May, June, we started actually with the new normal. Yes, our healthcare product is actually reaching the new normal. It's about 1.5 times if we compare against the pre-COVID. And we started to see a lot more customers actually coming online to shop for the essential items. And we have to also prepare a number of more sellers actually coming in because of the PSBB or the large, the physical distancing that is actually being imposed by the local government is actually restrict traffic that is going either to the market, to the pasar, or even to the mall. So we started to see a lot more new sellers actually coming in, and then we help them to actually be able to rebound during this pandemic situation. So if you go to the next slide, yeah. So how would actually from Tokopedia evolve and adapt into this big shift in the customer behavior? We do a lot of things. If you go to the next slide. Next slide, yeah. Simply, the essence is focusing on the customers. So we try to actually adjust a number of initiatives that we have. We provide the free shipping because we know lockdown or PSBB is actually make it difficult for people to access goods. So we provide free shipping to the entire Indonesia because we know this is something that is needed, and we want to ensure that every Indonesian actually have the same access to the goods, especially during the lockdown. We also collaborate with the government to enable access for the logistic company so they can still operate. And we also provide information on COVID in our application. And we empower a lot more cashless transaction because we know that this is actually key, especially during this pandemic situation. And beyond the marketplace, we also expanded into paying bills, paying utility, tax, even donation. Donation was actually increased significantly during the pandemic situation because we also promoted and encouraged people to actually donate to help a lot of people who need it, especially when the first outbreak actually come into Indonesia. And then next is also on collaboration. We believe that part of the resiliency is also to collaborate with anybody. And this is one of the examples for us to try to protect Indonesia economy. So we collaborate with the coordinating ministry for the maritime affairs and investment to actually help micro SME in Indonesia, because we know in Indonesia we have a lot of micro SME throughout the entire Indonesia, and they are very heavily affected with the PSBB. So we onboarded many new offline store, including those that are pedagang pasar in the wet market, that are selling in the wet market. We even try to onboard them and help them to educate them to sell online. We also onboarded a number of local coffee shops. As you know, coffee is becoming the new budaya or the new habit for many Indonesians. Lots of coffee shops were got impacted because of the PSBB. So we onboarded them, and they started to actually changed the model of selling. Instead of selling in a cup, now they're selling in a bottle. So now becoming the new trend to actually selling coffee in the bottle, in a bottle of 1 liter of half a liter. And one of the example of one of the partners, Kopi Tuku, this is actually one of the UMKM also. They actually sold more than 65,000 bottles of coffee, yeah, and that is only one variant, and they have multiple variant. So we didn't actually expect, selling coffee can be that big in our platform. But we are grateful that we can continue to become the platform that enable, the buyer and seller to meet, and also hopefully hoping to be able to contribute to the Indonesia economy as well. So that's why we created this campaign, Jaga Ekonomi Indonesia, and we also collaborate with various governments to also boost the campaign of Bangga Buatan Indonesia. This is a gerakan to actually help Indonesian to purchase from the goods that is locally made. This is another example of collaboration in line with the Semangat Gotong Royong to build resiliency not only internally but also to the society and hopefully also to the entire UMKM in Indonesia. So we work with various partners, especially those that actually already having the plan to create an offline event. Those events actually have to be cancelled because of the pandemic. So we brought the event actually online. One of the example is the Big Bad Wolf. It's one of the biggest books exhibition in Indonesia, and we brought them online. And a number of initiatives, including Jakarta Online Great Sale, that usually is actually happening with the malls. So we actually work together with offline retailers and get them to open the shops online in Tokopedia, and then having the great sale in our platform. Next. In addition to this, we also see that during this pandemic, actually the behavior of our consumers, they also becoming more aware and more realize that how important it is to have the fund for any emergency situation. So in order to actually help a lot more Indonesian to be prepared, we create this something that we call Rabu Nabu. It's a gerakan or it's a movement to actually raise the awareness and educate the importance of the investment in every situation. So in case there is any emergency, you already have fund that is easily to be drawn down. And then we work with various partners to provide the e-gold investment as well as mutual fund, and as low as only 5,000 rupiah and 10,000 rupiah, because the perception back then was people think that if you want to invest in gold or in mutual fund, you need to have a lot of money. But with technology, actually we make it easy. You can purchase instantly, and you can get all the process digitally. And then when you wanted to redeem, you can also redeem it instantly 24/7. And from all the things that we actually build, right, together with the partners, as you can see in the next slide, we actually, the efforts that we have made through collaboration actually quite paid off. We see that the number of the masks that is actually sold in our platform increased by almost 200 times. And shipping, the total delivery distance with the free shipping that we provided to the user was actually equivalent to 63 times tours around the world. And during the pandemic, we also sold only in the month of March, actually we sold 100 tons of beef in our platform. And there are many other things that is actually coming in as the result of a number of collaboration that we built with our local government as well as with our partners to get our sellers to still, continue to be able to get their business in Tokopedia platform. And all of this, by the way, was actually done while we are working from home. Since mid-March 2020, actually the entire 100% of Tokopedia staff actually work from home. And previously, we never actually do that. So it was the first time for us. Yeah. And then when we implemented actually massively. So we decided to do 100% immediately. So if you see that during that time, we have to adjust in terms of the way we work, and at the same time, we have to also adjust in terms of how we can serve our customers as well as our buyers. But it was a pleasant experience because we are glad that what we did actually make an impact to our customers in Indonesia. Yeah, you go to the next slide. This is also one of the example of the work from home, right? In Tokopedia, we have more than 1,000 customer service. They are actually operating previously on the site, right? But then we decided in mid-March, we just gonna roll out 100% of them to start working from home, despite that there are a number of articles saying that it's impossible for the customer service to actually work from home. But we tried, and then greatly, actually 100% now actually work from home, and then we rolled it out within a week, right? And then despite during this pandemic, we actually started to see a number of, sales activity in our platform. We actually managed to not to increase any headcount. So they all work from home, and they're becoming even more effective because, as we can see, after they actually adjusted within a week to start working from home, we see that actually the response time within 30 minutes improved by 4%. The FCR, or the first contact resolution, is actually increased by 2%, and the customer satisfaction score is also increased by 3%. And all of them are actually 1,000 of people actually start just working at home. So it required a lot of coordination. It required a lot of understanding as well. But we are very glad that we can keep all of our nakama at home and still be productive to actually serve our customers. So that's probably it, a bit of sharing about Tokopedia and how we are actually trying to build resiliency, which is using the three guiding principles that we have as nakama, which is the first one is to, customer focus, focusing on the customers. The second one is growth mindset, so willing to learn, willing to listen, and we can learn from anybody. And the third one is just make it happen and make it better. So this is also the reason why in Tokopedia, some of our campaign is having a tagline as mulai aja dulu. So for us, it's just important to start, get going, get started, and after that we can continuously improve. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fira, for sharing how Tokopedia evolved during this pandemic season. From what you have shared, I think there's a lot that have been done by Tokopedia team, including the analysis of your customer need and shopping behavior, and also tremendous business innovation and transformation to stay resilient and at the same time to contribute to the society and keeping your people safe and productive. I'm really happy to hear your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. All right. We have heard our two amazing presenters sharing their experience and views. I also see already a couple of questions in our Q&A chat box, so I will just continue with our Q&A session. So just a reminder for everyone, you can type your question in the Q&A chat box. You can choose to address your question to the panelists, or if you want to address your question to specific presenter, you also can do so by selecting the name in the drop-down list. All right. Okay, first questions. I would like to address these questions that we received from the participants to Mr. Douglas and also Mr. Rob. Okay, the question is, in your opinion, with this current pandemic situation, what is the biggest opportunity and challenge for the business in financial industry in order to survive this uncertainty? What area needs to be prioritized? Maybe I can start with Mr. Douglas first.
Sure, no worries. Thank you. Yeah, it's a really good question, isn't it? I think with any sort of risk and uncertainty comes opportunities, but also comes some challenges. I think for the Marsh business here in Indonesia, I mean, our opportunities lie really in two areas. I mean, they lie in this around our client customer base. So it relies in terms of helping some of our clients that are in financial difficulties. So how can we support them and work with them through this financial period of distress? And there are many industries where are in financial difficulties. You know, the airlines, the hospitality, the travel industry is in quite a serious economic downturn, and it's likely to be in a downturn for some time. So, you know, working with those clients is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to really show our worth and how we can support them in managing their costs, protecting their assets, protecting their people during a time of such uncertainty. I mean, there is also opportunities, again, both for our client base. I mean, there are some clients, I mean, Tokopedia is probably a really good example where online retailing has really exploded, and there are other industries, logistics, manufacturing in some sectors as well, has actually experienced some really solid growth during this pandemic. So again, working with those clients, working with them to make sure they're adequately protected, they've got their risks covered, they've got their values up to date so that their business is growing and is ensuring it's protected well. I mean, the other aspect is looking more internally. You know, what opportunities do we see internally? And one of the things that we're looking very, very carefully at is around flexibility in how and where we work. So, you know, I mean, and you heard again from Vera and Tokopedia, 100% of Tokopedia were working at home and during unbelievable change. And the same goes for Marsh as a business. You know, we didn't ever go to 100% working from home, but we had 85, 90% of our colleagues for many, many weeks and months working at home. And the important thing for us, worked very, very well and very, very effectively at home. So in terms of looking at an opportunity and how we work more flexibly, how we might work more remotely, you know, what does the future of work look like? What does the future of the office look like? What does the future of a sort of flexible working arrangement look like? So we see that as an opportunity in terms of how we work with our colleagues to make sure that they get the right balance of what they, when and where they work and work productively and effectively. So yeah, challenges and opportunities for our clients, and definitely challenges and opportunities for our colleagues as well.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas. Rob, can I hear from you?
Sure. Look, I think, as Douglas said, you know, in some respects, it's how you look at it. A challenge can be an opportunity, but in order to try to respond to the question, I think either your ability to continue to service your customers, your promise in insurance, and as Douglas said, standing by your clients and partners during this time is a big opportunity. And challenges more, I think more about, I think the changes that we've been through most recently have called into question our traditional thinking around what is work, where do you work, how do you collaborate, how do you get things done. And it surprised a lot of companies, and particularly in the financial services industry. And I think it's accelerated the change that will take place over the next few years. As I said in my opening remarks, ARG in Indonesia is obviously grappling with, you know, what does that mean for the future? And the future is here now rather than the future in 5 years. I think we've all been surprised by the pace at which people have been able to adapt to working from home. And we say that working from home like it's, the mere fact that you're not working in another place is the change, but that's actually not the change. Working from home has with it many challenges and many opportunities. Some challenges, the feeling of being isolated, the feeling that you're unable to collaborate with people as effectively as you used to. The opportunities are, spend more time with your family, work the hours that are more convenient for you, get more done. There's a lot of opportunities there as well. So I wish it was just one opportunity and one challenge, but I think it's a myriad of challenges and a myriad of opportunities.
Okay. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. The next question we received here is addressed to Ms. Vera regarding how do you, if there is any initiative or innovative program from Tokopedia for to boost the employees' resiliency and to keep them motivated, productive, and in growth zone, knowing that, as you mentioned, you have around 1,000 customer service. So how is it, what is the internal innovative or initiative program from Tokopedia to boost the resiliency?
Okay. Thank you, boys. I try to address that. So basically in Tokopedia, we actually use technology to try to get that engagement becoming massive and be able to reach everybody. So every day I will receive actually a Slack message to actually asking whether I'm okay or not, whether I'm feeling good or not. And then everybody actually being tracked about their responses. That's one of the example. And then we do a lot of sync up. So basically offer communication in this kind of situation is important, especially when we actually move into the work from home. We also have to adjust a number of strategy that we have in order to serve the customers, because the pandemic actually created a lot of uncertainty at the very beginning, right? Back then we didn't know whether the logistic will be actually allowed to operate or not, so we have to actually do a lot of coordination. So offer communication is actually important. We cannot assume. We really need to ensure that everybody actually on the same page in terms of the why, not just the what and the how. So creating a regular sync up is important, and we do a lot of fun stuff as well. So it's not just about work. So things like creating a Zumba online, yoga online, or even nobar, nonton bareng online is actually been an ongoing activity. So not just the things that is actually related to the employee being, be it checking them on the daily basis, as well as providing them access with the doctor online. So just in case that they need to actually check their health of their themselves or their family, they can actually do it online. And we do also a number of fun activities, be it esports, yoga, Zumba, nonton online, and a number of speakers actually being invited, including, some competition, singing competition, so that we can actually balance between the two. Yeah, maybe that's that's what we did. Yeah.
Thank you. That sounds fun. Thank you. There's another question here. Maybe I will address this question to Mr. Douglas about talking about generations. Do you see the difference of your team resilience, maybe between the millennial and also and combination of generation? Do you see any difference in terms of resilience within your team?
Wow, that is a good question. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I do actually. I mean, and it really does vary depending on personal circumstances. Whether it compares with age, I'm not sure. I mean, in Marsh in Indonesia, the average age of our employees is actually quite young. I think it's around 32 is the average age of the 200 plus colleagues that work here in Marsh, Indonesia, which is quite a young team. But we do have quite a bit of diversity across the business, both in terms of age and gender. We're about 50-50 in terms of female and male. In terms of the ability of colleagues to be more resilient, I guess I probably see some of our more senior, experienced colleagues being able to weather the storm a little bit more effectively than perhaps some of our junior colleagues. But there could be a number of factors there, and I'm sort of thinking out loud a little bit. But there definitely could be a number of factors there. Older colleagues are more likely to have a greater family support around them, are more likely to have that community around them. Some of our younger colleagues that have joined organisations perhaps straight from university, I know that some of them live alone, for example, and their families are not actually based in Jakarta, so they may feel a little bit more isolated. So I certainly, when we looked at the two aspects of colleagues that may want to come to the office, one, there was a business need in some areas, and then there was a sort of, this colleague has put in a request, they feel they can be more effective, more productive, and just a general desire to be in a community. And those colleagues tended to be more younger and probably more, in the millennial generation, aged sort of 30s and younger, rather than the older group of colleagues. So, yeah, not an easy question to answer, but just when we're looking at the sort of support networks colleagues have in place, we probably felt that an older generation were able to be somewhat more resilient because they maybe had more family support around them.
Douglas, it's Rob here, and
Rob, you probably are incredibly resilient, Rob. You've been around the block a few times, so I guess you've got a lot of resilience. What do you think? How do you do you share my views? How has it been at AIG?
I do share your views, but my hypothesis is perhaps a little bit different. I read a study that was done in Alberta, Canada, over the last few days when preparing for this, and they found exactly the same, that people over 60 who were far more likely to be adversely affected by COVID as the disease were in general less stressed than younger people, sort of 25 and under. And their hypothesis was that this was more driven by younger people thinking about the future implications of what is happening today. So the economy, work, how people work, whether there will be work, whether they'll be able to buy a house and things like that. But I think your element as well is a really good relevant to Indonesia point, in that younger people do tend to, if they're not married, they tend to live by themselves. Often their families are not in close proximity, and I think that would probably add to the feeling of potentially being isolated and more stressed about working from home.
Thank you, Rob, for your additional explanation. I think, it's maybe a bit different, between both of the generation. Well, we have still a couple of questions, but due to the time constraint, unfortunately, we cannot answer all the questions right now. But apologize. But as the final questions, can I ask for all the panelists, including Rob, to give like a one statement, because our dive-in mission is to enable people to achieve their potential by raising awareness of the business case and promoting positive actions. And this year, Dive In would like to bring local voice for a global impact. Can I have one statement from each of you? What would you like to echo to all participants today? Maybe I can start with Ms. Sphira.
Okay, thank you, boys. Yeah, I think one of the things probably as a closing, I think we are all here together, everybody across the world, we are all experiencing the impact of this pandemic. So the way we say it, I think collaboration will actually help us to become more resilient. So just be open as possible to collaborate with anyone, internally as well as externally. And at the end, through collaboration, at least in Tokopedia, we have seen actually great things can happen. So things that we thought is very difficult, but with collaboration, or in Indonesia, what we call with semangat gotong royong, actually we can make the impact, and then we can actually even contribute to the improvement in the economy. Yeah, so that's probably it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Douglas, can you give one?
Yeah, I guess, similar theme to Vera, really. I think it's important to stay connected, to protect yourself. We talk about being resilient, and doing that is about staying healthy, staying active, staying, looking after yourself. And I think that's really, really critical. In any situation and at any time of life, but particularly, it brings it to home during a pandemic. And finally, be optimistic. There's lots of opportunities out there, and be optimistic and look forward about some of those opportunities and how they're going to materialize. I think this is a great time that we can think about how we can grow as individuals and how we can support the businesses that we work for. And there's great things to look forward to. It might not feel like it right now, but there's definitely great things to look forward to.
And Rob, maybe you can give your one final statement to echo to participants.
Yeah, sure. So mine's very simple. So I think everyone should remember that resilience is a muscle, and if you use it frequently, it's going to grow stronger and help you adapt in hard times. So it's a great opportunity right now to develop that resilience muscle.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, now I think due to the time, I just want to, before ending this session, I would like to wrap up what we already heard today from our panelists and presenters. So several notes that I noted from the presentation today, that during this challenging time, we have to be agile in responding this uncertainty era, and we have to work smart and hard to adjust with the situation while we preparing ourselves and the business to evolve after this pandemic over. And the other thing that important is we still need, we have to stay connected with our colleague, with our customer, and of course, we still have to stay looking after ourselves and stay safe. And this is also the time for us to innovate and transform. Look what others opportunity that this situation bring to us. And as an individual, we also need to see what is the opportunity that this challenging time provide us personally, and see what we can do differently for our self-improvement, so we will be able to ready to rebound, whenever the pandemic is over. We have to leave our comfort zone and go into the growth zone. It's a very great presentation today that we had. So finally, before we close the session, I would like to give a high appreciation for all the panelists, the committee, and also Dive In team who already did a very amazing work together to make this session happen. And also thank you very much for all participants. Thank you for joining. And remember that tomorrow we are going to have another Dive In sessions. Same time, we are going to talk about enabling our role to stay inclusive in the organization. And before we end this session, I would just like to remind everyone that we have questionnaires. You can find the questionnaires in the lower right of your screen near the Q&A tab, I would like to ask the participant to take 1 minute of your time to complete the polling. If you would like to receive the e-certificate, please don't forget to enter your details. And once again, thank you so much for the panelists for joining us and sharing your experience. Thank you for all participants, and we'll see you tomorrow in our second dive-in sessions.
Thanks, Aziz.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Douglas.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Have a good day.